Welcome to the DOGE Diaries, diving deep into government efficiency. I'm excited to get into it today. We've got some interesting news on how things are moving with that, initiative. You know, the one with all the potential.
Yeah, I'm intrigued, a little nervous too, I must admit. It's a big shift they're talking about. And the news about Katie Miller joining, well, let's just say it's something.
Nervous is putting it mildly. I'm not so sure about this whole DOGE thing. Cutting the government like that, where do we even begin? We have to be very careful.
See, but that's where I think the beauty is, right? We're not just talking about tweaking here and there. This is a fundamental shift. Like, imagine a government that's actually designed for efficiency, like a well-oiled machine operating like a beautiful space rocket, you know? DOGE is going to get us there.
Okay, a space rocket. I like the imagery, I do. But I'm also thinking about the average person, you know? Like, what does this mean for their jobs? What does it mean for services they rely on? And, are things going to be more affordable? Because that's what really matters to most of us.
Exactly. It is not a rocket. This is our economy, our lives. You can't just chop away government jobs like that. People rely on them. They are providing a service, I worry that this efficient government is going to be smaller, but at the cost of the working person, which means less social safety nets, less opportunity. We need stable systems, not this drastic overhaul.
Okay, yes, and that's valid, completely valid. But think about it this way. What if instead of these, layers and layers of bureaucracy that add time and cost, what if we have a mean, efficient system? Imagine getting permits in a day, not a year, or, dealing with taxes in just a few clicks on your phone. That's a massive impact on everyday lives, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, if they could do that, that'd be amazing. Like, my cousin tried to get a building permit. It's insane. Took them almost 2 years. But what if the system is streamlined in the wrong places? What if they cut the wrong people? I need to see the details before I get too excited, because these big promises make me a little skeptical. Like, are they going to prioritize making things easier for people? Or are they just going to be about cutting costs at all costs?
And there's the rub. What happens when they get to the social programs? It sounds like they are going to cut them all. Where is the focus? Is it on the people or just the bottom line? Efficiency shouldn't come at the expense of essential services for people, like healthcare, education, things like that.
But that's the thing. I don't think they are trying to cut for the sake of cutting. I see it as optimizing, like trimming the fat. Like when you prune a tree, it makes it stronger. They're going to use tech, AI, to automate a lot of the mundane stuff. Imagine AI processing those permits faster, more efficiently, And those people currently doing that will be free to do stuff more creative, more needed. It's about using tech to elevate the government to be more responsive to us.
Okay, the AI angle, I get that, and it sounds like a good idea, I guess. But what happens to all the people whose jobs are taken over by AI? Are they just out of work? What about retraining? How are we ensuring people don't get left behind? Because we know, historically, big technological shifts have always hurt the lower and middle classes.
And that's not even considering the fact that we do not know what to trust with AI. The security of data, the bias that creeps into these systems, it's a serious problem. It's just not a solution that solves everything. We should approach AI with caution, not blindly embrace it for everything, and certainly not for crucial parts of our government. We need human oversight to keep the system accountable.
Yes, and there's definitely, a need for careful implementation. Nobody wants a Terminator-like AI running the government. But we could use a system that is like a super efficient librarian, AI can organize and streamline and allow for humans to do the crucial stuff, the problem solving. Think of the time and money saved, which can be used to create new opportunities, to retrain people, or, put that into more social programs. It's not about replacing people, it's about empowering them.
Okay, but that's a big if though, isn't it? If the money saved actually goes where we need it. And honestly, that's usually not how it works in my experience. I'm worried that it'll be more like savings go to corporate tax cuts and we're left with fewer resources. I'm more interested in accountability here. Like, how is DOGE being held accountable and how can we, the public, have any say in what they're doing?
Exactly. And it's not just about the savings, but how it impacts communities. Like, if we just cut programs based on numbers, we are bound to create a situation with winners and losers. We need to consider the impacts and, consult with communities on how to move forward in this transition. We have to have a measured approach, not this rapid change they are proposing. It is not a software we're debugging. It's real lives, real people we are dealing with here.
Right, and you're both spot on. But, and this is big, what about the potential? They could be using the saved time and money to invest in things like, renewable energy, or like building sustainable infrastructure. They could be creating jobs, but in the new era of, like, green technology, it could be a massive win, not just for government efficiency, but for the planet and future generations.
Yeah, a greener future. That's the kind of thing I can get behind. But these people running DOGE, they are also the same ones who are involved in space exploration and electric cars. They seem more focused on Mars than Earth right now. I want to see concrete commitments to, like climate action, to show that the benefits of efficiency will also flow to environmental programs.
Right, and that's a big concern. This focus on tech and efficiency does not address the bigger issues. We need to be thinking about, wealth distribution, fair wages, making sure that the benefits of this new tech are not just limited to a few, but available for everyone. We have been dealing with issues of inequality and poverty for decades, and a new layer of technology is not going to solve it by itself.
Okay, so here's something. What about using cryptocurrency for government transactions? I mean, think about it. No middleman, secure transactions, and, super fast. Imagine international aid being delivered instantly and transparently. It's like a new world of finance.
Cryptocurrency? That's a whole other level of tech. I mean, I barely understand how my bank works. I hear the scams, the wild fluctuations in price. I need more assurance, that the average person's money isn't going to disappear overnight. That's my biggest worry with crypto.
Oh God, now you're talking about opening up a whole new avenue for money laundering and instability. The financial systems we have aren't perfect, but they have regulations, oversight. You can't just create a new system overnight with no rules and pretend it's going to work. You also have to keep in mind that not everyone has access to technology, leaving those communities in the dark in these types of systems.
Yes, and I hear all of that. I do. It does sound like chaos at first glance, but, we're not talking about the unregulated Wild West here. Imagine a government-issued coin like a digital dollar that's, secure and transparent. It is easy to track and would end up simplifying accounting and audits. And imagine if aid money could reach people directly without the usual, intermediaries taking their cut. Isn't that a powerful vision?
A government-issued digital dollar, okay, now that's an idea I can wrap my head around a bit better. If it's managed responsibly, the transparency piece could be huge. But what about user-friendliness? Are older people who don't use smartphones going to be left out? Or people who don't have internet access? That's always the issue with technology. It leaves some people behind.
And that's where things break down. The digital divide is a real thing. We have people without bank accounts. How can we think that we can just migrate to a digital dollar and that would solve the problem? It sounds good on paper, but how are the elderly or communities in the rural areas going to be able to use this technology? It would need a very, very carefully executed transition with a large amount of funding to not leave anyone behind. And we can't even get regular infrastructure built and maintained properly.
Okay, you both raise very valid points. And yeah, we need, a phased transition, training, access points in communities, the works. But consider that if the underlying technology, the blockchain, is transparent, we can actually track where the money is going, We can stop corruption and waste. And that is going to help people in all areas and on all levels. That's massive. And imagine if we could use that technology to make voting more secure. Imagine if each vote is on the blockchain. That would really stop voter fraud, wouldn't you say?
Voting on the blockchain, that's like science fiction, isn't it? I guess it would be hard to cheat if it's all transparent and trackable. But, what about hacking? Can it be hacked? And are we making voting even more complicated than it already is? It's hard enough for some people to vote with the current system. They go to the wrong polling location or the forms are too complicated. So, we have to make sure it's accessible for everyone, not just the tech-savvy people.
It's not science fiction. It is pure chaos. We are talking about the sanctity of our democracy here. Blockchain is not infallible. The government can't just rely on it without thinking about the potential issues that are created. And it's already hard enough to get the younger generations to participate in civic life. This would just alienate even more people from voting. The traditional way might be tedious, but at least the safeguards are well established and well tested. We can't risk undermining our election systems.
But isn't it worth exploring the potential? The traditional method also has vulnerabilities. They are vulnerable to physical tampering, lost ballots, voter intimidation. Blockchain, if done right, would eliminate all that. And, what if we could use it for, verifying citizen IDs or, managing land titles? All sorts of public records could become transparent and impossible to tamper with. No more shady deals. That sounds like real progress.
Okay, I like the sound of transparent land titles. My grandfather lost a piece of land in a weird legal battle years ago, and it's never been the same since. But all this tech, it feels so distant from the things people worry about every day, like putting food on the table or, finding an affordable place to live. I guess I worry that if we move too fast with tech, we could miss the basic needs people are struggling with right now.
Exactly, and it's also important to understand these new technologies are not silver bullets. We also need to be addressing systemic issues like, poverty, homelessness. Tech can assist, but it doesn't magically make social problems disappear. We have to have a multi-pronged approach. We have to work on improving our institutions through better training and more accountable practices, not just replacing it with machines. This quick fix mentality never leads to long-term solutions.
Yes, and I agree. We have to address the fundamental problems. But imagine if a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, ran part of the government. People could directly participate in decisions about, budgets, projects. It's like direct democracy, but with, the efficiency of technology. I mean, what if every person who had a stake in a local park could vote on what projects were needed for it? The community would have, real control.
A DAO. Okay, so it's like a giant online community, but for government. Sounds complicated. I mean, I can barely keep up with my group chat. I worry about the people who aren't online or are not computer savvy being left out of the decision making. How does that not just become even more biased against people that already struggle in our communities? I like the idea of more community input. I do, but it's got to be really inclusive and accessible.
This just seems like a recipe for disaster. Who are these experts setting up these systems? Who controls it all? The US has checks and balances in place for a reason, and just letting the crowd decide all the time is just going to lead to chaotic and poor decisions. We can't just throw out the principles of our democracy for some technological fad. And I know everyone hates bureaucracy, but it is there for a reason.
But imagine the transparency. Every decision, every vote is on the blockchain. We could see exactly how decisions are made, who voted for what, where the money is going. It's like, the ultimate level of accountability. And it's not about throwing out democracy, but it's like upgrading it, using technology to make our democracy more resilient and responsive to the needs of the people. I see a future where the government is truly a collective effort.
Okay, I do like the transparency part. That would be a big improvement for sure. But, what if a wealthy group buys up all the, voting tokens in a DAO? Or what if hackers take over the whole thing? There's a lot of what ifs that we really need to explore before we go off implementing something like this. But the idea of everyday people having a voice is an idea I like.
Yes, we absolutely do, because these what ifs become real problems very quickly. It's like we are trying to skip a lot of steps. We haven't figured out basic cybersecurity yet, and now we want to rely on a system that, if attacked, would essentially destroy the foundation of the US's government. It's just irresponsible. I do not understand this push to rush to these ideas without understanding the long-term effects that these are going to have on us. We should focus on fixing the current system with better regulations and not tearing it down completely.
And there's where the new DOGE comes in. They are the visionary leaders to guide us into this new reality. The articles here are talking about how Musk and Ramaswamy want to streamline, cut regulations, and I see that as them creating a space for innovation and experimentation. I mean, it sounds like a massive disruption, to the status quo, but we need to take those leaps to create a better future. I mean, why not? If we can reimagine everything else, why not reimagine government?
Okay, but there's a difference between disruption and chaos. I guess I'm still in the show me camp with all of this, but, I'm going to keep an open mind. I really do want a more efficient system, a government that truly works for us and, not against us. I just want it to be done the right way, and it's important that the changes benefit everyone, not just a select few.
I am not seeing anything new here. This is just a new coat of paint on the same old problem. Government needs improvement for sure, but I am not sure why we need to throw away all the rules and regulations we have to do it. I'm not convinced that this DOGE is going to lead us to anything more than disruption and instability. I still believe in the checks and balances our system provides. That's the only thing that works long term.
Well, that's something to think about. I feel like we've touched on so many areas today, and we are just at the beginning of this process. It's all really exciting. This new DOGE is like a catalyst for change, and I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about. I do hope that we as regular people have a say in how all this unfolds. It's important that we are part of the conversation and that our needs are not forgotten. We also have to pay close attention to all the unintended consequences of all these changes. We don't want to create an even worse situation than what we have now.
Indeed, I think we need to proceed with a healthy dose of caution and skepticism. I am not against progress, but we should be very careful about dismantling the systems that are in place. We need to find new ways to improve without taking our entire system down in the process. It's our duty to hold them accountable and make sure that the changes they are proposing are actually helpful, not destructive.